What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. Corporate executive, speaker, disruptor, techfluencer, innovator, father, just overall dope person, John Graham. Welcome back to Living Corporate. How are you doing, dog?
Brother, in this moment, I'm grateful to reconnect, man. Like just seeing you reminds me like how fast time goes by. Like if we marked our conversations by our podcast episodes.
Brother. Yeah, we were just talking off of mic. I was talking. I mean, we had to reschedule. I was telling you, like, man, my middle child had a birthday party. I forgot all about it. I'm over here telling you this, thinking that that I told you that my wife and I just had twins. You didn't know that.
I was like, what?
I'm looking at our text messages. I'm like, well, no, how would you know that? We ain't been texting.
Yeah, man.
So I'm glad. Yeah, you're right. Time is. It's funny, man. Like the days. I keep on hearing this phrase, and it's true, man. Like the days are long, but the years are short, right? Like you look up and so much passes. You know what I'm saying?
That's wisdom.
It's mad wisdom. It's mad wisdom. It's true.
Yeah. Hey, we've hit unk status, bro. We saying things like the days are long, but the years are short. Like that's some old head stuff you hear at the barbershop, bro. Like,
you know what I'm really looking forward to saying? Like, not ironically, is like someone say it's good to see you. I'm looking forward to being like, it's good to be seen. That's like my next.
That's the next wave of.
That's the next wave, bro. That's how you know you really, you've matriculated.
Sure.
So let's talk about where you're at, man. I mean, I feel like the last time we had you on the pod, we talked about like the performative nature of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and even just kind of like retooling our language, but the language really reflecting our mindset and attitude of what exactly are we trying to solve for when we talk about these things?
Right.
Like one, I'd love just to hear your perspective. Because you and I were both in conversation during, like the murder of George Floyd that summer, and just all of the performative, theatrical nature of DEI work during that season. We're now at a new season, a much more fascistic, authoritarian, like blatantly, nakedly authoritarian season, where white supremacy is very much so in vogue. I'm curious, like, as you look at this current landscape, what are your thoughts related to DEI or to like even just like transformation and a lot of the topics that we were really talking about those years ago? Like how has any of that pivoted or changed, or if it's changed at all in this context and moment?
For those, you and I have seen through the veil, right? Like I think collectively there was this glimmer of hope, right? It was a very small window, right? I'd even give it like a 3-month window in the summer of 2021. But I will say, if you're a student of history, this is not new. This is right, and I think I've said before that I don't use the term white supremacy. I use white insecurity, which is, I think, more apt to describe what we're watching and witnessing, right? We're literally seeing the moves of insecure people who are trying to grasp for security, right? And that's a human nature thing, right? When you feel insecure, that stress, that fear, that cortisol spike, all that, you go into survival mode. Well, unfortunately, they feel for some reason that they have everything and still can't survive. So that's even more telling. But all of that to say, man, I have witnessed the rebranding of DE&I. I have seen, I'm fortunate to have been in my corporate years now, and I can say I've seen another cycle of evolution of affirmative action, right? This is like the 5th evolution, as it were, post 64 Civil Rights Act. So these are 10-year waves. We're in our 10th year wave. The last one was diversity and inclusion, right? In the early 2000s, and before that it was diversity, and before that it was affirmative action. So I mean, it's like every working generation has had their evolution of this work. I more so saw I'd say about mid 2023 that this was turning, in which case I started adopting the phrase of, or the terminology for the vocation as humanity practice. Right. And I started getting away from diversity, equity, and inclusion because through all of that programming and funding, humanity was the last thing on anybody's mind. It was really about maintaining a machine. And I'm like, well, at this point, we're not even serving the purpose of what it was supposed to be, what it was supposedly designed for. So no, I've watched it, now gone through fits, and now we have adapted, or I think most of us have been beaten into submission, as it were, to adapt and move on. But the humanity work never stops. And I think that's the difference, right? If you were in DEI, you no longer have a job. But humanity practice is forever, as long as there's human beings. So that's where I'm at.
Man, that just resonates with me. I remember we had this conversation and we were talking about fairness, and you and I had like a debate about, well, fair can be whatever. And I was like, man, okay, Jared, whatever. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying. But then we were having a conversation about, I remember that conversation plus some other things that were happening around my circle at that time. It's what inspired Living Corporate to really pivot from calling itself like a DEI storytelling platform or company to really be an experiences management company, right? So like,
love that.
We pivoted from doing like this, like, okay, we tell stories to, hey, we're helping organizations build effective employee and customer experiences, right? So from that, we built out, okay, we have brand storytelling as a vertical, we have an e-learning platform as a vertical, and we have data transformation as a vertical. But I think in the spirit really of what you're saying is, it's crazy to see so many people who had these very big titles in the DEI space suddenly not have any job, and they're trying to figure out, okay, do I go to project management? Do I go into communications? Do I go into human resources? Do I go into, what do I do? And despite the fact that DEI, that language is faux pas now, experience is going to continue, right? Irrespective of how you even feel about identity, you're going to need to be thoughtful of what are the experiences of your customers or the experiences of the employees. And irrespective of how you feel about that, you're going to have to you have to grapple with the reality that if your customers don't have a good experience, you're not going to have a business. If your employees don't have a good experience, they're not going to work for you. You're not going to have a business. So experience is still critical. But I'm going to give you your point back to you though, that underneath all of that is humanity. Because I guess you don't have to have a business if you don't care about yourself. You don't care about people. I guess you can just fail. But and so there has to be some agreement and understanding of humanity in all of it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I wanted to give a little bit of context in terms of just kind of like where you and I started, where we came from, the work that we were doing at the time, work we're still doing. However, I also recall, as I'm looking at our text messages, about a year ago, you reached out to me and said, hey, man, you also sent me an email. You were like, hey, I'm working on this thing. It's called Upfront, all about relationship and love and connection. And you sent me some things and I forwarded it around. I gave you feedback. I thought it was dope. I'm subscribed. Talk to me more about like that work, because I know that's been your pivot, right? Like you were full-time executive at the marketing agency that you've been at for some years. You're still there as fractional, but you're really full-time founder with Upfront. So like, let's talk about that journey and pivot to Upfront.
Yeah. So by the time I was texting you, things had started to collate, right? So now I've got the C Corp founded. We've got brand developed or in development, but far along enough that we can start, telling people about it. And then this, some semblance of a direction forward. And so the idea precedes that text and email thread by about 3 years. And it was when I was still in LA and I'm having a few folks over from the job on Friday night, and we're all talking, and a couple of the sisters there were single and were sharing their dating woes with these dating apps. And some of the stories we were hearing were unreal. First of all, I was like, damn, like you don't realize how far out the loop you are as a married person until you hear a grown adult's dating challenges. And it is, bruh, I hug hug my wife tighter every day. Like,
same. I'd be like, yo, thank you for being with me, man. It's crazy outside.
Man. So we're listening. And so we said, okay. So we went down this rabbit hole of like, how could we improve the dating experience for single Black professionals who are marriage minded? And we start riffing and take this, take that, and all this. And then at the end of it, I said, if you could know the red flags, insecurities, and flaws of the person you're dealing with before you invest 6, 8, 12 months into a relationship, if you could know these things up front, would that be of value? And she was like, oh my God, if I could know that. And so then Upfront stuck with me. From that night forward, I would wake up literally at like 3 a.m., like clockwork, multiple times a week for 3 years straight with ideas. And then the content I'm consuming, whether it's books by, E. Franklin Frazier and the Black Bourgeoisie, and looking at the history of the Black condition post emancipation and the relationships, or a Breakfast Club interview with Dr. Claude Anderson in November of 2019, and these notions of, if we want to build a self-sufficient community like we had 1,200 of them, post emancipation up until the early 1900s. Well, the foundational part of that was community. Well, communities are built off of married households that then come together and say, oh, we need to provide goods and services to each other so we can thrive. And then we take those economics, right? So all of that from his work. And I'm sitting here saying, well, damn, but then I'd go to conferences. I find myself in conversations with single folks about their relationship challenges. And the one thing I kept hearing was, well, the relationship was going well until their past traumas came forward. And they hadn't dealt with them, and that derailed the relationship. And I would hear it, Zach, so consistently. It was like glaringly obvious that nobody is approaching dating through a healing pathway first. And then Upfront started to coalesce. And at some point in a year and a half ago, I was like, all right, I have to listen. All right, I hear you. And that's when I started to mobilize, man. So yes, and we have built. We just launched our beta last Saturday, funny enough. So as it is today, October 24th, tomorrow will be a week in the wild with our first 1,000 hand raisers that we call the Vanguard 1K. But to those who are unfamiliar, Upfront is a AI-powered healing-centered dating ecosystem specifically designed for single Black professionals who are seeking marriage.
What's interesting is when I think about the concept of that app, and I think about you just being a founder, you and I were talking off mic, it's like, man, being a founder in this moment, right, is like really tough, right? Because just economically, like, we just haven't really been, well, I don't know. Like, I'm not 50 something years old, so I wasn't around and like navigating the world like during the .com bubble, but like,
same,
right? And so like, it's just like, for me, I feel like, we about to have like a Great Depression. And it's funny because you talk to these companies and like the way that people are holding on to their dollars, or just being very particular with like looking to track every single thing. And yet like layoffs continue to happen. It just feels like something really bad is coming. And so like, but what's curious about your venture, about your company is, I would imagine, especially in today's climate where factors are, the landscape, I believe, is pushing us to get closer together, right? Like, we are going to have to, we being first of all, we in this context does mean literally everybody, save like the few really rich white straight men at the top of the top of the top. Everybody's gonna have to figure out ways to like practice and build community in a different way. And then definitely, I also believe when it comes to people of marginalized backgrounds, particularly Black folks, we're gonna have to really practice and figure out how to get together. And so like, I find the concept of this so intriguing, especially when you also think about the Black corporate professional. I mean, the Black corporate professional has been under threat for a while, since they've existed. But like, when you think about, even especially in this moment, the Black corporate professionals under fire. Like, there's all the data coming out. Over 350,000 Black women have lost their jobs this year. Obviously, Black men are oftentimes, when it comes to corporate reporting and experience, we're often ignored. We're like an inconvenient, challenging identity to tackle. So it's just like we don't even exist. But like, that doesn't account for the hundreds of thousands of Black men who also lost their jobs. So like, it's in it, like, that intersection of people that you're looking to serve is so intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you talk about it being AI powered, right? Like I want to get to that. What does it mean? Like what is the role of artificial intelligence as it pertains to your platform or your company?
So the way that we thought about it was, one of the biggest challenges that we see is, yes, healing being a part of the journey towards a long-term healthy and sustainable relationship, but we're also in the burgeoning time of artificial intelligence being usable, right? In ways not just usable, but accessible and usable to a high degree of efficiency by the lay person, right? So I'm like, and I'm hearing things. I watch, Diary of a CEO, and I think former co-founder of Netflix said something to the effect of, if you're not building a business with AI involved or incorporated or driving it at this point, you're already a dead business. And I'm sitting there like, duh. Mind you, I was beta testing ChatGPT, before it got full release. So a lot of us were. And then I'm like, okay, well, if we can incorporate AI, but in a way that feels culturally appropriate, culturally connected, right? And then train the LLM specifically on Black psychology, specifically on Black cultural nuance in a American, but also diaspora connected context. And then leverage those frameworks to then put a persona on them, so it feels like you're talking to somebody who gets you. And so our personas, Langston and Zora, became the AI expressions of that healing journey to guide you through not just those 30 days that are mandatory to get to connection, but also throughout the process of engagement. When you think about how many people complain about getting ghosted because it's a real thing, you'd be surprised that the percentage is so high of the reason why people ghost is because they don't know what to say. Not because they're genuinely like monsters, right? They don't know how to disengage in a healthy way. So they just avoid it, which is an unhealed behavior. So we're saying, okay, no, we'll help you through that process too. Not novel in that sense, right? All the other apps are including AI companions, as it were, guides or, starters, thought starters, things like that. But nobody's approaching healing first. And oh, by the way, for the population of people who have by far the most to heal through epigenetically and intergenerationally, right? And here we are trying to find love through all of this stuff and have not dealt with our own brokenness before we bring it to somebody else's brokenness and expect a healed outcome. So let me get off my stump, but I'm simply stating that the AI part of it is really to help you reflect through and heal through, or at least begin the process of healing through the things that have become barriers to healthy and sustainable relationship first, right? Relationship readiness before getting into relationship.
I ask because I think there's this, there's this misconception that AI is like this magical thing that can like make a business. And it's like, no, like you still need to be creative and figure out what your leverage point's going to be, and also like using it responsibly, right? So that's really cool.
Yes, that is a very important part. Using it responsibly, like as they say, man, a hammer can build a house or it can kill a man. Depends on how you use the tool, right?
1,000%.
So AI is no different. It can certainly be used for nefarious purposes, and that's dependent upon the user of the tool.
I spoke for you about you being a founder in this moment, but like, I'm gonna give you space to actually speak for yourself, John, and believe it or not.
Thank you, sir.
What are you learning? What are you learning and seeing as a founder in this moment, in this season? Like, what have been some of the highs? Maybe what are some of the lows? What are your takeaways right now?
Yeah. So the way I've sort of digested or processed my experience as a founder in this environment is like, you're familiar with Dr. Sebi, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Sebi veganism is like veganism times 1,000, right? So you could be a vegan, non-Dr. Sebi vegan, and you can go out to eat. The world has accommodated, it's adjusted. You've got options. But when you go like, doctor, say be vegan, like you are anything short of making your own food, you're going to starve.
Right.
So the way that connects to what I'm doing, not only am I a Black founder building a Black owned business using Black psychology, history, cultural nuance, all these things to benefit and create an outcome for Black community. I'm also trying to do it with only Black dollars. Doctor say be vegan. Right. So and I
doing it Black dollars in this economy is crazy.
Listen, so here's the funny part, right? So it's not that we don't have it. Let me be perfectly clear.
Sure.
There is a very healthy population of Black professionals who've done well and are interested in deploying capital. What I'm finding the biggest challenge, and I'll go back to the beginning and everything that I've had to learn on the fly, thank you to AI, to cut my time to market. But what I'm finding is that Black folks who have done well and want to deploy capital in an angel context versus VC. And I'm looking, right? I've had so many, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I've had so many great conversations with VCs that want to give me money. They're just waiting for me to have traction. That's it. Like I want to write a $50 million check tomorrow, John, but we need some kind of traction of revenue and projections before we can do that. Come back when I'm like, cool, that's a good problem to have, but I'm also conscious of what taking VC money means. And I have a mission that is very specific because we're not approaching this just to create another dating app.
Right.
And I think that has been the biggest part of my communications with VC as well as angels, but also to the general market. We're approaching this like a community health crisis because it very much is, right? We don't just relate relationships to marriage alone. Marriage unto itself is a correlative between 4 specific quality of life indicators, and most people don't think about. One of them, household income, is directly impacted, right, in a positive way by being married. Second is educational outcomes for children. A 2-parent, healthily married, sustainable relationship produces better educational results for their children. Third is health outcomes. Married people tend to be healthier. I won't say all of us, but tend to be, because you have somebody you are accountable to live for.
Well, you're healthier. Even if you're not healthier than the median, you're healthier than you would have been
left to your own devices. Trust me.
Left to your own devices.
And then the fourth correlative is life expectancy, right? So married people tend to live longer. So when we see all of these things that are directly connected to marriage, and then you realize, oh, we're the least married racial group in the country. 29%, right? We're the lowest marital rate in the country. Oh, and then, by the way, we're at the bottom of all 4 of those quality of life indicators as well. So this is bigger than just getting millions of people on a dating app, hooking up, smashing and dashing and generating upsell revenue. And that can obviously narrow the field of conversations I'm having around capital.
Right.
And so, you talk about using the tools, ethically. And right. And so I'm conscious of taking capital ethically. Because this mission is too big to just, try and go for the bag, man.
I mean, and here's the thing, it's tempting. And I would say it's scary when people talk about this economy, but the challenge is that there's plenty of people out there looking to eat up and get things and offer deals that in other contexts we would say no to, because they know people are hurting outside. And so salute to you for looking to build something, one, with a very clear, distinct mission and purpose, and also not being easily swayed or tempted to deviate from it when people offer you cash, right? And you're right. I mean, like, so often, like, people who probably listen to Live in Corporate on a regular basis may think I'm like anti-VC, but I'm not really anti-VC. Well, maybe I am anti-VC. That's probably
slightly.
Maybe. Slightly. I am. I'm anti-VC.
Everybody's got their preferences, right?
Yeah. I'm anti-VC only because so often the function of a VC is to, one, they want to dilute ownership and and they want a unicorn, right? They want to get you to $1 billion or close to $1 billion. When I just going back to what you just said earlier about, the Black community prior to, or after Reconstruction and and all of the different, like, what did you say earlier? White insecurity. What did you say?
That's correct.
Before all of the white insecurity driven economic disruptions, aka bombing and firebombing Black communities, these were small groups of people. These were groups of people practicing solidarity economic solidarity with one another, right? And I think, like, and I've said this before, and it's like, I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from making money, but every company ain't meant to be $1 billion company,
right?
Like some companies are meant to make a few $100,000 or maybe a couple $1 million or maybe even like tens of millions of dollars, maybe even $100 million. But all those numbers I just said are dramatically smaller than billions of dollars, right? And I think it's okay to say, hey, look, man, I sell sweaters and my sweater company makes $350,000 a year. Hey,
that's not a bad, that's a good business.
That's not bad. That's a good business. And I'm able to provide to this community. They do this. I also have this relationship with this trucking company, and we do this, and this, and we build business this way. And I think, like, I am excited about, I fantasize about a world, right, where people own their own things. They own their own companies that do decent, that do well, that do well enough for them to take care of their kids, own a home and go on vacation. And then also, but beyond just like the material thing, that company also mobilizes community enrichment and engagement. And also that that your company provides a service, be it tangible or otherwise, that you can then barter and build a relationship with another company. Right. So I think about living corporate, right? So living corporate, we do these things. We got brand storytelling, e-learning, and data transformation. Okay. Hey, man, I would love it. What does it look like for us to collaborate with your company? Like, maybe there's some things that we can barter back and forth. Like there's all sorts of, when you talk about quote unquote generational wealth isn't from my perspective. Some of these phrases, man, I wish we didn't learn them. It's like, God, hush. Let's just stop these very narrow definitions. Generational wealth is not just about having so many dollars in the bank. It's about wealth of relationship and who you can reach out to, pick up the phone, what you can mobilize, what you can actually, like, what can you build with your neighbor for the greater good and impact. That is wealth, right? The fact that I can say, like, over time, right? It's like you and I are cool, and your son reaches out to my daughter, and they have some nonprofit they might want to do in like 20 years, right? Like that, like, to me, like, that's powerful. If I'm able to say, hey, man, look, my uncle is actually the person who built this thing. Like, who's to say, like, my children, one of them may take over living corporate in 30 years and turn it into something completely different, right? But that, like, to me, it's about it's legacy in that regard, and not just this very European obsession with money, right? It's like what is the goal? Am I making sense?
100%. I think if I could add on to where you're going, it's this notion of domination, right? It's being in the dominant group, which is a human conundrum, because as long as there's been civilizations or societies or whatever the case may be, you always have somebody who owns and controls a resource that other people need, thereby making them the dominant group. Mm-hmm. And those who are not in the dominant group are in the subordinate group. And that has changed aesthetics, demographics throughout history. We had a hell of a run as the dominant group. We just didn't seek to exploit. There's a whole difference in ethos, right? And that insecurity dates well before the transatlantic slave trade. Point being that, money is a tool, as we stated earlier, but I think what we associate money with is being able to, as far as I've seen, we as Black folks associate money as being an entry point into the dominant group. Mm. So, for instance, in the corporate space, and I did, a lot of talks to Black ERGs around the cost of the climb. And I think we've talked about it on the show as well. But this notion that there's only been 19 Black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies in the last 65 years, since Fortune started doing its 500 list. Only 19. Now, when you juxtapose that 19 next to how many Black business owners that have generated $1 million in revenue or more, that list is innumerable.
Right.
So the question becomes, why are we chasing what only 19 have achieved in 65 years when we have thousands of examples over the last hundreds of years, right? Well, let's say 100 plus years, and we're not most of us can't even name one of those Black business owners. You see what I'm saying? So the mindset, the mind shift of what we should be thinking about. And I think you said something earlier that we are being pushed to a point where we're going to have to rely on each other more than ever. And so I'm very conscious of that in what I'm trying to build, because if we don't get family right, then community has no shot. And community is the basis by which any group of people generates wealth, whether near term or long term. And funny enough, our mission is to facilitate 1 million Black marriages by 2030 or 2035, excuse me. Right. And that number is not arbitrary. 1 million marriages over the course of 50 years will generate $4.7 trillion in household income. Now, if we still have a planet in the next 10 years, in the next 50 years, I should say, that sets your children up, my children up, generations that we won't even see to be in a very different reality. So that's how deep I'm looking at this.
I mean, it's dope. It's legacy minded, and it's exciting to hear. I think so often, man, like to your point, right? I don't even know if it's pessimistic. I think I just really see how things really are. And so often when we talk about, I get pictures all the time. Now, you, my man, we was connected before Upfront, but I get pictures from people all the time who are Black and brown and whatever, who are true building companies. And you can just kind of tell, it's like, okay, are you building this company? It's like, I'm building this company just to get rich. And I'm building this company to get rich so that and to give me an entry point into these very exclusive non-Black, non-brown spaces.
Right.
And I'm thinking about, even, Corporat's not really a pop culture podcast, but like, I'm thinking about this little show that just came out recently, where it's like about an HBCU, but the main character is an East Asian person, and the main character, the antagonist is an overweight, dark-skinned Black woman. The friend is a light-skinned, petite Black woman, and it's like, who wrote? And somebody, it was crazy. That's wild. It was crazy, John. And I was like, but here's the thing. I don't have a commentary on the show because I haven't watched it. Sure. But what I found curious about was, a question that was posed, which is, you're building up all this Black content. Are you building Black content, or are you building up content to really enrich your community, or are you leveraging Blackness as a means to get into white spaces? Oof. Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of, man. I said, dang, and that's a real thing. But that's a real thing. It's like you build a company. If you're building a company and like, you don't really care what the company is, you just really want to get in this space. You want, except to your point earlier about these these handful of CEOs, and it's like, and look, if you got the CEO, as long as you didn't step on anybody to get there, then hey, man, I salute it. But you're right. It's like why? Like so many of us dream to be one of the few Black faces in white spaces, as if we're going to do something radically different than these other Black faces in these high places. And it's like, you're not. You're like, if you somehow miraculously hit the lottery and you hit this and you get up there, you're going to do the same thing that the other people was doing.
Yeah. Not only that, let me go back. I mentioned social dominance theory. It is fascinating psychological work to read into by Sedanius and Pareto. This came out in like 99, right? And they effectively stated that there's a structure to the dominant group. And then they have like the subordinate group. And then there's like this thing called the arbitrary set group. And it's a bunch of like identities that are made up, right? Race, geography, religion, all these other things. Fine. Point being, what it states is that the dominant group remains dominant because the subordinate group buys into their dominance and supports it, right? Promotes it, idealizes it, and does whatever they can. Now, those that do make it from subordinate to dominant group circles, right? Black faces, white spaces, it's because they've been allowed in, one, but they've demonstrated their not only belief, but also support, and they have adopted the behaviors of the dominant group so as not to be a threat to it.
Listen, I firmly believe.
Listen,
I firmly believe that, like within the corporate environment, that the white executive class, for a black or brown person to matriculate upwards, they have to demonstrate to the white executive class that they're willing to shit on other black and brown people. Like, I don't see a lot of pro-black, I'm trying to lift it. Like, I can name 3 of them right now. Like, and I'm saying, like, to me, these people are like ultra unicorns. Like, people who are like, hey, I'm black, I love being black, and I love black people, and I'm gonna mentor and advocate and sponsor black people at my job and make sure they come up with me. That I've seen that like 3 times. And I'm sorry, I've seen it one time and I've been told about it. I've seen it one time. I've heard it. I've seen it one. I've seen it one time, and I know the person personally, and I've heard about it 2 other times. Everybody else who I've seen try to do it, at best they keep their job and they are just on an island. That's at best. Oftentimes they gone.
100%. I mean, let's keep it funky. Like, I did a talk at the Gathering Spot. Shouts out to Ryan Wilson out in DC. In fact, the night of the election, I was in DC doing this, and I don't know why I booked it. And I was like, something's going on that day, and I was like, oh shit, it's an election going on. So I'm in DC, the night of November 4th. Fine, brilliant black folks in the spot, and I do my talk on the cost of the climb, and I asked the crowd, has anybody ever seen a black person get to the highest height of a company and change the system? They thought about it, and they were like, no. I said, but yet what we hear is you got to get in there and change it from the inside, young brother. Like, and the point is that that's not how the systems work. The systems maintain their structure, status, and standing because people that get in make sure they do. It's a benefit to ensure that you remain in the dominant group. Fact is, everybody wants what only a few can possess. Nobody wants what everybody can have.
It's just
that's just basic, right?
That's the truth. And I mean, and the other uncomfortable truth that I've continued to learn, you know, when you talk to these executives, these people who sit in these positions, a lot of them be broke for real.
Oh, debt. The debt is crazy.
Like, in terms of the debt. Yeah. Not broke. Like, and we're not broke in the way we think about it. Like, oh, you don't have things. No. No, I'm saying you're broke because everything around you has you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you be talking to people and it's like, okay, that's okay. This house is like $2 million. Okay, you got like 5 cars. They like, you got a note on all them cars, and then you got your kids in private school, and then you got all these clothes, and then you got, okay, and you trying to buy this thing too. Oh, and you about to send your other kids to college. Okay, so you sitting on like 5 M's of debt.
And you got to eat that daily. Asset rich, cash poor, right? Making high incomes and living paycheck to paycheck. Like, that's a thing.
Living paycheck. That's a thing. It's terrifying.
It's a real thing. What that speaks to is this notion of we are still practicing unhealed behaviors. Fact of the matter is, when you read Black Bourgeoisie, which was, I think, 1957, they were looking at studies done on black folks from 1866 forward, and they were seeing that, hey, there was a class of black folks who were never enslaved. And we're talking about like 7,000 of us who never saw the lash, never saw work on the field that they didn't own. Mm-hmm. Point being, they got thrust 4.5 million newly free black folks now thrust into the mix, and you're sitting there like, I don't know them. Right? Like, they look like me, but point being, there were people who emerged out of that formerly enslaved class to build strong businesses, right? Whether they were lawyers, went to school, lawyers, insurance providers, driving tailor, carpentry, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But we still struggled, and they noted this, that there was still this notion of showcasing our wealth even though we didn't have it. And they talked about the black banks that we had in these communities. They said like all of the black banks combined didn't add up to the holdings of the brokest white bank in the smallest white town. So when you start to think about these things that we're still dealing with of the facade of having it at the cost of actually knowing how and the mechanics of really owning it, because to your point, there's still a dominant group that's not interested in us having it, right? But we're still trying to fill a void through the aesthetic. I spoke to my son's leadership and mentorship class, which he got elected president to. Shout out to J3.
Come on, J3.
Right, 8th grade. And I'm talking to these young men and I'm saying, tell me a name brand or what is the aesthetic? We were talking about uniforms and what uniform you wear projects to the world how people should engage with you. And I said, if you look around the room, what uniform are you wearing? Tell me the uniform of, and I'm wearing a suit, whatever, just to make a point. I get to the point where they start talking about name brands as the aesthetic of somebody who's doing well. And I'm sitting there saying, well, how much does it cost to make those brands you're talking? Somebody said Dior, somebody said Balenciaga. How much does it cost? And one young brother said about $3.50. I'm like, oh, so you know. And I said, well, how much do they charge? Oh, over $1,000. I said, is that a smart play? And they're like, no. So they know, they're conscious. But I said, do you know why we are so fascinated with Jordans and sneaker culture? And they're like, no. I said, because when we were enslaved, we were only afforded one pair of shoes a year. Mm-hmm. And you had to make that last. And if you didn't have shoes, you didn't have shoes. And there were people who still didn't have shoes post-enslavement. Mm-hmm. So now having shoes is a sign that you are not enslaved and or not downtrodden and poor. Still buried into the psychology.
And it's and to your point, like and like, because before Jordans, because I think people think like Jordans like this modern phenomenon, but like, yo, I know a lot of like well-to-do brothers that love shoes. This not about, and it's not, they never, yeah, stay
old school player from the heavens. Come on now.
Oh my God. If you know, you know. Oh my gosh, if you know, you know. That's so funny. So yeah, so stay, but I'm saying like there are people who love quality handcraft, and there's nothing wrong with them. But to your point about the history, I've never thought about it like in that regard. But as I think about just the conversations I've had, I'm talking about like my high school principal, obviously my uncles and my father, my grandfather, but just like this idea of just being like, hey man, they love shoes. Hey, here's how you take care of shoes. You need your shoe tree. And so you're absolutely right, man. There's something, and it's interesting how that psychology and that, to your language, unhealed trauma manifests over generations, and how it's influenced or how capitalism forces it to move a little different, right?
That's a fact. Somebody's making money off it.
Absolutely. Now, look, before we go though, we got to talk about your podcast. You're in season 1 because you talked about you talked about the tech product, which is super dope. But let's also make sure we talk about the podcast. Like, what are you excited about this season? Who are you having on besides me? Like, who else are you?
For sure.
Like, who are the other game changers and world breakers that you bring in on your pod?
Yeah, man. So first of all, the Upfront podcast is really the extension of the work we're trying to do with the work that we're doing with the app itself, right? There's a void of content that speaks through a healthy or healing lens to Black relationship, right? And I think we all come across this shit in our feed of, the gender wars, the trauma wars, I call them, what do you bring to the tables, the 304, like there's all of this economy of trash attention on the worst example of Black relationship. And then you've got the people who are giving relationship advice and have never been married, and they're, either way. The Upfront podcast is our attempt to inject and infuse healthy conversation into the algorithms.
So no pop the balloon.
I have debated with myself internally on whether I want to do reaction videos to pop the balloon, but I'm like, there's enough people doing that. I'm good.
Bro.
Like if you're on that show, you've already lost. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no.
Already lost.
No. But look, I'm excited. I'm excited about Upfront.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for bringing me back.
No. You're good. No, I want to tell you, and I thought you was going to be trying there on time. but I'm excited about what you're doing. You know, what I want to say, I'm going to give you your flowers, and I'm trying to do a better job. I don't know if I was doing a poor job of this before, but just in this landscape and moment and season of time, I want to give folks flowers while I see them in person. So I just want to tell you, first of all, I appreciate the way that you consistently show up. You know, there's so many people you meet. People want to be on your podcast, and then, you know, but they don't want to talk to you again until they got something they got to promote, or they don't want to whatever. You and I have kept in touch. Like I said, I'm looking at text. It's like, oh, it was me. I didn't text John back.
And there was no love lost because I, as a father and husband, understand.
No, of course not. I know. No, you're a gracious brother. But my point is, like, you're consistent. The way that you show up, the things that you're focused on, you stand on and for what you stand on and for. It's refreshing. It's encouraging. I think, you know, for people like me who have been like just disillusioned with just dealing with a lot of us when we get to a certain level, and that's probably a podcast for another time. But sometimes you reach a certain level of success, just frankly, just middle class Black success, and it's hard sometimes to meet other people who you feel are genuinely interested in building authentic, real relationship, and who are doing things of actual merit that aren't just looking to kind of elevate themselves. And I would count you amongst a very select number of brothers who are showing up in a really different way. So I appreciate you. I want to tell you that straight up on camera. We ain't talked about this before. I'm telling you live right now. So thank you.
Receive, brother. Thank you.
Where can people learn more about Upfront?
Yeah.
Where can they engage? You talked about the Vanguard 1000 earlier this year. Where can people sign up? How can people engage?
So first and foremost, go to upfront.love. And you can still join the wait list. We are in our beta phase through the end of this year. So we're getting the app ready for the world, which will be coming out at the top of the year for download across all platforms. So if you want to check out the podcast or check us out on social, it's at JustBeUpfront across all the social handles.
I love it. Look, it's been John Graham, again, technologist, futurist, community builder, speaker, executive, father, writer, innovator. John, you're welcome anytime.
Likewise.
Salute to your team. We will be talking soon. Make sure y'all check out all the information in the show notes. Click the link. We will talk soon. The name of the platform, and the podcast, Upfront. Link is upfront.love.
That's right.
Peace, y'all.
Deuces.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.